Good morning, teachers.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning
Morning
po.
Morning, ma'am.
po.
Good morning
Morning,
po,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Hi, hello, mabuhay,
Start.
ma'am.
Good morning.
Okay, before we start, let me have our system check. Can you hear me clearly? Can you give me a thumbs
Yes
up?
po.
Okay, thank you for the response. How about the screen I'm sharing? Can you see the screen I'm sharing? Can you react for the screen? And can someone tell me what you see on the screen just to make sure?
Ano po, maganda.
Okay, what's the image about? Anyone who said that? Is that Eugene? We have Eugene here.
Si Mike po yung nagsabi po.
Okay. Sir Mark, what did you see on this
Yes, ma'am.
on the screen? Can you
Ano
describe?
po, Erling is just holding his hand.
Okay. Are you at work?
Yes po.
Okay. That's why you're wearing face shield and face mask. Okay, how about my video? Can you see me as well? Beside the screen I'm sharing? Okay, great. Thank you. So let's start. Again, good morning. Let's have a quick prayer. Sir Van, would you like to lead the prayer? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Let's bow our heads and feel the presence of our Lord and then the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, thank you for this another wonderful day. I hope that everyone in this class will learn something new and they will be safe in their own places, and especially to those our classmates that still at work and trying to adapt in this situation. May you guide and bless them always, and bless our teacher uh, for her uh, knowledge that she will impart. And I hope that this day will be good for everyone. You know, all this we ask in your sweet mighty Jesus' name.
Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Van. So let's continue. Okay. Again, our next part would be the before class screenshot. You know that, right? Okay. So please turn on your video if it's possible. I will count in 3 seconds. Then you smile. Okay. Okay. I will give you more time, 5 seconds to turn on your video. Okay, great. So 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, next slide. Keep on smiling. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you for that. So before, since it's really what early in the morning, and I think also it's what rainy morning, right? To all of you, let's play a game. Okay, I assume you're familiar with the game. Put a finger down. Can you give me heart react there if you know the game? Okay, great. So what you have to do, you have to raise your two hands, right? If you don't have video or cam, it's okay. Just do the game, right? And then, of course, you have to put a finger down if you are guilty of the statement. Okay, are you ready? So let me see those hands. Okay, let's start. So put a finger down if you have never set up an LCD projector in class. Of course, like all the technical stuff. Okay, huh? Never. If you have never set up an LCD projector, laptop, and other technological equipment, right, in class. Okay, keep them raised. Okay, next. Put a finger down if you have never ever written your own visual aids. Okay, wow. Okay, all of you. May I see them? Okay, still 10. Put a finger down if you have never said or thought of something bad to or about your teacher. Again, put a finger down if you have never said or thought of something bad to or about your teacher. Oh, okay. Okay, next. Put a finger down if you have never ever did something super embarrassing in class. Oh, wow. Very what behaved students in class. Next. Put a finger down if you have never ever failed a test. Okay, just few. Next, put a finger down if you have never ever had a crush on your teacher. Okay, we have seven fingers raised. Put a finger down if you have never ever spent time in the guidance office or detention. Okay. Why do we see like half or just five remaining? Next, put a finger down if you have never ever cheated on a test. Okay. We have five, four fingers next. Put a finger down if you have never ever lied to your parents about where you're going. Okay, four. Put a finger down if you have never ever been late to class. Okay, three. Put a finger down if you have never ever dyed your hair. You've never colored your two fingers. Okay. Put a finger down if you have never ever skipped class. You never teach class. Okay, we have three. So that will be all. Right. Thank you. Let me ask for some realization about the statements. Like, what can you say? Especially if you lose all your fingers there raising. Anyone? Can someone raise a hand? Especially I saw someone with three fingers left. Anyone who'd like to share any realization from the game? Anyone? Sir Clark, how many fingers left for you?
Three fingers, ma'am.
Three. Okay, so what's your realization?
Ano po, ma as a student po, marami na rin po akong napagdaanan like
Mm,
yung mga good stuff, pati rin po yung mga hindi masyadong magandang
yeah.
experiences po.
Okay, that's great. However, what's the implication for you?
Ano po, as a future teacher po, nakikita ko rin yung sarili ko siguro sa mga magiging future students ko po
Mhm.
na hindi lahat po perfect pero
Correct.
ano po, ginagawa rin naman po nila yung best nila.
Correct. Correct. Very good. Right. That is so true. I mean, maybe we've failed doing all these, right? However, you learn from your mistakes. I hope so. Right? Who else? Another one. Sir Van?
So, ma'am, parang tatlo lang po ata yung binaba ko. Hindi ko nasundan na.
Ah,
Yan, nagsiscreenshot pa ako kanina mo.
sorry. And then?
Um, ano ma'am, siguro it reflects the uh, casual situation of students and nung may face-to-face pa po.
Yeah. Yeah, great, great. Right? It's so important that we right that we also appreciate the situation that we had before the pandemic. Thank you, Sir Van. Okay, let's proceed. So welcome to the course, right? Technology for teaching and learning too, definitely. But of course, before that, we need to recall some of your learnings that you had about the prerequisite of TTL2, which is TTL1, formerly known as EdTech 1. Right? And in this day and age, we realize that there is a clamor for teachers, right? Are well equipped or who need to be well equipped and competent in terms of using technological tools, especially both traditional and modern. So we need to open our minds for all the possibilities that this might happen, and this is really happening at the moment, the new normal setup. So we have to prepare ourselves, right, to acquire and learn more about wisdom, about the need of this second wave of educational technology course. So may I ask, um, let me just do the random systematic sampling technique as I call a volunteer to at least share to the class like what you learn from your TTL one course. Okay. Sir Eugene, can you help me? Can you pick one number from five and then just raise your fingers like that. Who's that? Five or four?
For
Four. Okay, thank you. So one, two, three, four. Ma'am Chabelita, anything you remember from your from the prerequisite of this course?
I learned about how to how to make an app, and for the discussion, I the most the lesson that I most remembered is the three-tiered model by Jerome Bruner,
Yeah. Okay.
wherein there are three levels. There are three levels.
What are the three levels?
Uh,
Something to do with the type of learner, right?
I can't remember.
Okay, but you know there are three.
Topic lang, ma'am.
Maybe that was asked, right? Are those iconic, symbolic? No, you can't recall. Okay,
Can't remember.
something to do with the types of learners or the preferences of the learners. Thank you. Right? At least I thought you really had your review of the course. Thank you. Give me a number, Ma'am Chabelita.
7, ma'am.
7-1. Only one from 1 to 5, sorry.
3, ma'am.
1, 2, 3. Sir J. Are you there? Sir J. Romeo?
Yes ma'am, good morning po.
Yes. Anything you
Um,
remember?
sorry, yung mga basic lang na yung basic, background po about technology ah, kung it is bane or boon lalo na sa panahon ngayon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Opo, lalo na sa yung panahon ngayon lalo na ngayon sa na-applied ngayon sa ayun nga po, sa new normal of education. Pero dati naman pre-pandemic, so hindi pa naman like anticipated 'to. So yun nga po, parang kung boon or bane yung technology lalo na for the
Well,
post-millennials
in
like
your case,
students.
what's your stand? Is it a boon or bane? Is it a blessing or curse?
Uh, I don't usually give a take po sa mga gano'n ah, kasi it really depends po talaga on the situation. Kasi kung po, sorry. Yeah, like
Yeah, continue.
it really depends po talaga sa situation lalo na kung talagang, ah, like required sa isang particular lesson, ganyan.
Mm-hmm.
Pero at the same time laging iko-consider din yung limitations. Yun lang naman po lagit lagi balance and limitations when it comes to technology use, ganyan.
Okay. Yeah, correct. Thank you. Thank you for remembering. And that's the answer there, right? Well, it depends on your defense, but generally, right, or majority will say that it depends on the situation. It depends on how much you use your technology. Okay, next, give me a number, Sir J.
1 to 5 lang po, ma'am.
Yes.
2.
Two. Okay, 1, 2. Ma'am Ara Marie.
Hello po.
Um,
So, base po sa dito po sa TTL1, yung pinaka-basic din po yung the use of technology for teachers and learners and how technology affects the education. So, kumbaga po, paano po nag-a-adjust yung mga traditional teachers
right.
sa bagong technology
Mhm.
na hindi naman po lahat kaya nilang makisabay. So, ayun po, pinagdadaanan din po nila.
Yeah, correct. And we received a heart from Ma'am Nadeline. Thank you, Ma'am Ara.
Thank you
So
po.
as we can see, right, in the picture, technology for teaching and learning, one course also opened, right, your eyes, your minds, and even your perspective when it comes to being conscious, appreciative, and for you to really be prepared to utilize. Okay, when it comes to utilization, I always tell my students to maximize the utilization, right? It's not about simply we use it, but it's more about maximizing the features of that particular software or even hardware, even the integration of traditional and modern technology, especially in the teaching learning process. So Also, right, you have learned that technology is more effective when used together to engage your students, communicate with them, learn also from them, and create. Okay, and creating is the highest level of thinking skill according to Benjamin Bloom, and revised by Lauren Anderson, Benjamin Bloom student. And nonetheless, right, TTL1 course has provided your, training ground at least to realize that it's so important, right, that it's not just the teacher. Of course, you will say the teachers are the best visual aids, right, in the classroom, but still, right, there are different types of learners that we need to supply or to use supplemental IMs or instructional material. So, okay, next. Okay, you also, I assume, right, that you also learned during your TTL1 that there is a warning sign, right, in our heads that there are so many risks of dehumanization of technology, especially present to the learning environment, to the learner herself or himself, right? Even political manipulation, terrorism, right? Financial theft, and others. I've heard just recently there's even, I don't know what happened, but in a class, I don't know if you also heard about that, that in an online class, that's why do we have Neo here? Because I still admitted Neo. Do you know Neo? Anyone? Yes, okay. So because right, we need to be safe in this kind of virtual environment. I've learned that there's someone, I think, who entered a video conference. I don't know where is that place, but that happened, and the person showed so many unpleasant things to the students, and that person even removed the teacher from the video conference. So we have to be careful. So please, let's follow the format. Let's follow the format of your name. So next. Okay, you also at least are what oriented about the four phases of educational technology to the teaching learning process. First, setting of learning objectives. You know that it's so important, right, to set the learning objectives so that learners are aware of what to achieve or to do at the end of the lesson. Most of the time, this is where law of expectation happened, right? Most of the students, they are more motivated to learn if they know what the goal is at the end of the lesson. It's also important as an element in your lesson planning, right, or lesson plan. And implementation, definitely, it's not simply about the planning, setting of objectives, but also your utilization of your entire plan. And that's what we call implementation of relevant learning experiences. If you're familiar with the 4 A's, are you familiar with the 4 A's? Can you give me like react? 4 A's in the lesson plan? No? Oh. We have activity, okay, abstraction, application, and right, all those as part of the lesson plan. But however, in different formats of lesson plan, they also have their 4 A's, but in different way, like 5 E's or 7 E's, right? But yeah, that's I think the common. So those where you can find the relevant learning experiences. Okay. And next would be evaluation of the efficacy of learning experiences. So learning experiences are not limited to your IMs or use of IMs. All things, all learnings, all activities that happened in your particular lesson or class discussion, and you have to evaluate if it's efficient. It doesn't mean I remember I taught during my practice teaching. I taught grade 7, 7 sections of grade 7, and even though I prepared like for one lesson, it doesn't mean that it's one size fits all. That never happens in of instructional materials. Therefore, even though you are teaching the same course to different students, right, you need to approach them differently, especially it depends on their multiple intelligences. So you have to evaluate. It's so important that you don't settle for, I think mediocrity, for instance. You don't settle for that, for average, and you still look forward that, for instance, on the first class, it didn't work, your motivation didn't work, so you have to change the next class. You don't simply say, this is what I prepared, I will just stick to it. Okay, so no mindset like that. And next, we have review. It's so important. It's part of reflective teaching. Teachers should review the whole teaching learning cycle or elements thereof for more improvisation. So before the pandemic, before this new normal set up, I even watched a video. I think it's the video from Bill Gates talk. It's a TED talk as well. And then he talked about the title of the talk is Teachers Need Real Feedback. And there's a teacher who maximized the use of a camera inside the school. I really wanted to do that inside the class, or even at least you are recording your voice. So at least you can go back, right, and review what you said, right, what your students said, how they perform in the class, and so on. So it's just a good that we can record this kind of discussion, so at least I can go back, and when I rewatch some recordings last week, even though I don't hear my voice, if it's recorded, but I realized I have so many favorite, what do you call this, or in my term, that's my kind of verbal fillers, and then I need to be aware, right? To limit the use of these words, especially if they are not so, relevant or important to the statement. So it's important you review. Is it? You ask the questions. Is my motivation fun? Is it relevant to the discussion? Or did I only use my motivation for the sake of motivation? Right? I use the term MEMA. I told my students who are future educators, I told them that, okay, it's we shouldn't settle for mema pa motivation. You get what I mean? The motivation, why? Because the motivation can be used as springboard, right, to your entire discussion. That's what happened to me during my practice teaching. Even my motivation became the springboard. So even if I already have examples in the actual lesson, I still go back to what they did in the motivation to relate it to the scenario. So next. Okay, so before we jump into the actual, right, into the actual TTL2 course, because we had your review, okay, I would like you to watch this short film, and later on I will ask you to do. I hope you can see, right, so many facets of the short film that can actually be a training ground or some sort of realization for us teachers in terms of the use of technology, whether traditional or modern technology. Okay, someone's typing now. Okay, yeah, the title of that is The Howl and the Pussycat. Your takeaway, how will you relate it to EdTech? The link is there. If you can't access it, you may type your answer in the chat box and I will read them. Answer done, I will read your answer. Okay, I think Sir Clark is done. Not yet. Okay, take your time. You may add more. How about the others? I haven't seen others typing. It's okay. Take your time. You again, do not forget to include your name so I can address you. Okay, we have answer here from Ma'am Nadeline in the chat. Kahit anong mangyari, wag sumuko at magpatuloy lang sa buhay. Yeah, just like what happened to Aaron Lumibaw. And may pagkakataon sa buhay natin na hindi tayo lagi ang magaling. Correct. Para tayong bulaklak. Every flower blooms on its own time, or in its own time. Matuto tayong maghintay, baka hindi pa natin oras para mag-bloom. Okay. Ma'am, natin may challenge you to relate that to, I appreciate, right, the life, lesson that you get from the short film. How about its relevance to educational? Well, I can relate to your answer, right? When you said, not all the time, right? We are the best person in that particular activity. So even, right, as teachers, we can say, even though we know how to use this kind of platform, or for example a software video conferencing app, it doesn't mean we are the best right in using it. Like no one can really I think outperform another person. So in that case, yeah, I think that's how I can relate it from your answer. Another. Okay, I think Sir James is that also. So from Sir James Pattery, I realize that achieving your goal is a hard task to do. Perseverance is not enough. It needs a collective effort to succeed. Yeah, as you notice in the film, right, there is the help of Taong Bayan 46, right? And then there's one from what a BPO industry, right? For the fluency at least, well, for the action and gestures, the theater actor, and I can relate the short film to edtech in a way that it doesn't require a specific technique that you already know. It is more of collaborating with a different technique or people to make it more effective. Wow, I like that. I like that perspective from you, right? Yeah, most of the time we need to share materials and we shouldn't be greedy about the instructional materials that we have, especially to our, fellow faculty members. We need to be generous. Okay, there's one. Okay, from Ma'am Darlene. Right, through this short film, pinapakita nito na maybe hindi natin maabot yung gusto natin. There is a right time para sa atin. Maybe hindi para sa atin yung tinatahak natin. But pwede tayong sumubok ng ibang paraan para mas lalo pang gumaling. Through the short film, mas napadaling maihatid ang mensahe na gustong ipakita ng isang storya. Just like different strategies, pwede natin siyang gamitin in terms of teaching. We can use this method para mas lalo pang maka-cope up yung students with regards to lesson and activities. Yeah, correct. But as you notice, there is a very strong support system, right, for Aaron Limiba. However, you also notice, I assume you also noticed at the very beginning that the teacher herself, right, was not confident enough, right? When it comes to, believing in the ability or capacity of Aaron Lumiba when she said na good luck sa atin and so on. So as teachers, right, we should be at least the first one from the room, right? Especially you're the one who asked for volunteers, right? So I hope we'll, be sincere when it comes to believing to our students so that we'll be able to see what they really can do. Okay? Let me read some from, okay, there's one from Jay, from Jay. So, given the technology rise and its mainstream status, it is essential and convenient for us to utilize this in whatever agenda or errand we want to run. The pressure of the actual world, when compared to the virtual world, is very rampant and is manifested. Thus, the modern technology plays its function through fostering learning in whatever virtual platform available. Correct. Also, the familiar assistance, yes, this support system is crucial in making this happen. The awareness and the sympathy between the actual and virtual can instigate smooth flow toward the effectiveness of learning among the students. Wow, very well said, Sir Jay. Yeah, that is true. Right? When it comes to sympathizing, right? And when it comes to the support that we need to give to our students, not just as teachers, but even their family members. And you have observed that from so many posts on Facebook right now, right? That instead of giving the children the best support system they need, and of course they deserve, right? Parents sometimes neglect that part of learning, which is the most important part. Instead, they try to answer the module of their children. Next, we have from Sir Clark. One of the main takeaways I had from watching the short film is the famous phrase, it takes a village, oh yeah, to raise a child. We can see how important the support the kid is getting from the people around him. It solidified his passion and kept the fire inside him burning, correct, right? Even though it's so obvious because he's a kid, right? So he didn't realize yet, I mean, at the beginning, that, many people, even the mom, right, at first, even though it's in a funny way, right? But you can see that the mom is somehow also hesitant when Aaron Lumiba announced that he's going to join a contest. Okay, to continue, this is very important because the child is still in his formative years. Yeah, that would determine his values in life. Also, we can see the use of props. Yeah, I like this one, especially during the performance. This is a classic use of traditional material or aids. And it just shows how important the use of these materials, especially for young learners, because it broadens their imagination and keeps their enthusiasm going. And that's what I'm looking for, right? So in that case, well, yeah, thank you for that, Sir Clark. So if you notice, but you may also add, but the idea when it comes to relating the IMs, if you notice on the contest proper, right? Aaron Lemibao, he was able to what improve his speaking, ability, right? And you realize maybe what at the last part you are asking, why did he not win, right? Maybe you like him to win. However, just like what Sir Clark said, right, there is a need for the use of I ams. Okay, so I don't want to preempt yet because I would like to hear from you, but yeah, that's one point there, right? You can see that, yes, right? Mateo Echeverria had, it looks like a stage play, right? A one act or one man stage play. However, you also notice that when it comes to fluency, right? Maybe you'll think about it because it's declamation, right? The contest is declamation contest. Even though, yeah, there's a need for prop, but, right, or costume, for instance, but I don't think it's more about that. So maybe you will see the two participants, right? The two contestants as, I mean, in a different perspective or angle. There's one more. Okay, from chat, bilang mga guro, this is from Jonah. Bilang mga guro, tayo dapat ang unang magtitiwala sa mga estudyante natin. Hindi dahil sa hindi natin sila nakikitaan ng kakayahan, ay babaliwalain na lang sila. Kung sa usapin naman ng paggamit ng teknolohiya, malaki ang naging ambag nito upang ipakita ang suporta ng magulang na malayo sa kanyang anak. Correct. Nagbigay ito, that's the father, right? Nagbigay ito ng lakas ng loob sa kanyang anak para paghusayin at pagbutihin ang kanyang ginagawa. Dahil na rin na videohan siya ng kanyang kapatid, nakita niya kung ano ang dapat niyang pag-igihan. Yeah, and that's one. That's another point here, reflective teaching, for instance. Right? You may assume Aaron is a teacher and then you may review, right, your implementation of your instructional materials. Dahil na rin, binibidyohan, more at pag-practicean pa maigi. Makikita rin natin sa commercial na ito ang importansya ng suporta ng magulang sa anak. So, support system, right? From the family, even, we hope, right? From classmates, friends. Hi ma'am, malaking tulong ang suporta ng pamilya sa ganitong pagkakataon. Correct. If you are going to consider another context, which is being here in the new normal setup, virtual environment, swear it's a blessing po. Hehe. Malaking tulong din po ang technology para mabalikan ang mga pangyayari, para malaman kung ano ang mali at kulang. Correct. At para mapabilis ang pagkatuto ng isang tao. So, yeah, louder. Right? So, that's great, great takeaway. Ma'am Claire, thank you. Another from Padlet. Okay. From Joel. Basically, is that every child has a unique talent, which is correct, not in writing, essay, maybe in declamation or another. Educational technology gives us a chance or opportunities to connect our relatives, to connect to our relatives who are in abroad, and it captures memories. It's fine, it's fine. Yeah, as you can see, even I'm reading your entries, I also, rephrase them at the same time. My takeaway from the short film is that motivation and support is what we need to become better, correct? Right? That's why we always have this part in the lesson plan, motivation, which you shouldn't call motivation when you implement it. That's what I always tell my students, that when you conduct your demo teaching, you will not tell your students, we will have motivation. No. Why? Why is that a no? Because, right, if at the end of that motivational game or any activity, right, and they're not motivated, I think it's a shame that we call it motivation. So you may just start, uh, class, we're going to play game. Are you ready? Are you excited? So that's how you're going to do it, okay? And next, we can relate the film to education. Education technology is a tool to support the educational system we had. We can really spread and find newer and best information we can use in the lesson. Yeah, maybe you are pro, in support to Mateo, right? Yes, right? I think he maximized the use of instructional materials. However, right, you notice that what is lacking is the content. Okay, so I need to preempt now. So that's the content. While for, right, Aaron, he has the content. However, he lacks instructional material. So even, I mean, the two, right, if you're going to relate them to teachers, right, that's actually their differences, right? Those are their differences. While if you are a teacher, you don't let the content suffer just because you are focused on the IM. You get what I mean? So for example, we have the best visual aid in class, or we have the best, PowerPoint presentation, or any material you're using, right? Or you have the best prizes to give away to your students. However, right? When it comes to your content, when you start explaining everything, like your students are just staring at you and with open mouth and still eyes, and then, ma, what are you talking about? And yeah, so the point is you don't let the content suffer just because you're focused on the IMs. At the same time, you don't just focus on the IM, because we have different types of learners, and we have to acknowledge that they sometimes, they sometimes are not, what do you call, satisfied, right? To simply listening to teacher or seeing the teacher talking. Correct. So next, una sa lahat, may iba't ibang tayong kakanyahan. Ayon nga kay Howard Gardner, yeah, proponent of multiple intelligences. So kung saan tayo magaling, hubugin natin. Hindi rin masama na sumubok sa iba natin na gusto nating matutuhan. Kailangan lang natin ng suporta ng nakapaligid. May proseso ang lahat. Correct. For me, technology can, yeah, what can improve student engagement and can make learning more interactive and think critically. Yeah, you make that point. Also, Sir Sir John DC. Okay, so in that case, you also notice, right, that it's a process. And again, if the two contestants were teachers, if only they were teachers, right, you realize that Aaron and Mibao was once what, uh, of course, you see after 1 year, right? You know what happened. He excelled in the costume, props, and even, of course, the fluency, right? You realize that we can look at Aaron Amiba as a traditional teacher, right? But he tried his best to cope with the situation, to adapt to the needs of the learners, and then what that kind of teacher was able to, to nail it, to ace, being so equipped with the new technological tools. Next, from Padlet, we have from Sir Yulin. I think the takeaway in the short film is the optimism. Wait, I lost it. Okay, is the optimism of the child. He is not that fluent in English, yet he still believed that he can spill the piece, correct? Or nail the piece. Next, I can relate that in teaching profession because we must to teaching profession because we must first believe in ourselves that we can achieve our dreams before we inspire or motivate the student to achieve their goals. Wow, another what facet of the takeaway, right? So it's your realization as a teacher that you need to motivate a student to achieve their goals in life. Another from Mom Ira. For me, one of the most what's this? What's your modifier here? Or maybe important ways to support your family is to understand them. They need you to be supportive in this video that shows being supportive. Being a supportive parent means having your child's best interest at heart, but also being present, correct, involved, and helpful. Walang ibang tulong at magtitiwala sa iyo, walang ibang tutulong at magtitiwala sa iyo kundi ang iyong pamilya lamang. Walang masihigit sa kanilang presensya. So, for Ma'am Ira, she focused on, the support system, especially the importance of being, I mean, the family members being present around the child. Next, from Sir Jomar. Also, as a learner and as a student, I see how important the technology for a performance. When we say technology, about the gadgets, software, and hardware. Yeah, that's true. Okay, let me clarify that later. But also the things that we use for a simple way. The short film gives us the lesson that if we use technology as part of education or sharing something, it will be easily understood. So, in that sense, okay, yes, technology, when you hear the word technology, I hope that computer, laptop, and all these modern technologies, right, are not the only ones that pop into your mind. Why? Because when you say technology, is any invention that you see around you, right? It's an innovation. So even what the clothes you're wearing, the lights in the house, right? Your table, anything, everything is new, right? Even before, when even before people we're able to create or innovate something new. So anything you see, that's the product of technology. Okay, so teachers, let's not limit our mindset, right? That when we say technology, it's the laptop, internet, and softwares. No, correct. Next. Okay. Sabi nga ni Dale's Cone, maybe you are referring to. Okay, it's not Dale's Cone, it's Edgar Dale. But he has the cone of experience. Maybe you're referring to that, right? Sabi nga ni Edgar Dale, in his cone of experience, isa sa ginagamit ng isang guro sa pagkatuto ng isang bata ay visual or video. Sa short film, pinakita na binabalikan ng bata ang video na ginagawa niya at matandaan ang kinakabisado niya. Ang education technology ngayon ay malaking tulong, lalo na sa nangyayari ngayon, pwede nang balikan ang lesson. Correct, Ma'am Nadeline, right? But yeah, we need to exert effort when it comes to, recording it. And let me check, it's recording. Okay, next. From Jomar. Oh, I think I've read that. Another from Marie. Naniniwala kasi ako sa quote na to, you need to trust the process. Kasi hindi mo naman agad makukuha agad. Ang gusto mong, ang gusto mong kailangan mo munang ang gusto mo, kailangan mo munang paghirapan para sa huli ikaw ang magwagi. Wow. Before we proceed, from Sir Van, for me, one of the takeaways I got from the short film that I can relate to is that EdTech is that the struggle of the child, which is a Filipino who is not efficient in the field of technology. Okay, that's why can be also compared to his struggles in the field of English, for which through practice soon enough he became adaptive, correct? Like when we take educational technology at first, it will be difficult to others, but after some time, we will be efficient enough. Yeah, I like the hope to hear the message of hope, right? That we can really be positive about all these, even though I hope you will not be annoyed by your internet connection. I don't want you to feel sorry every time you got disconnected. Okay, so please don't feel sorry. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so let's proceed. Keep your answers coming there. Okay, let's proceed. So yeah, so definitely I already said it. Do not let the content suffer just because you're focused on the IMs. At the same time, right? Do not, right? Just, do not also just settle for less. If you really need to be, adaptive, you really want to relate to your students, you need to do what they are doing. You need to be in the same field. For example, you need to be exposed to these softwares, right? So next. Okay, welcome to Technology for Teaching and Learning 2. Can you see my screen? Sorry, just to double check. Discourse. Okay, so as you can see, the environment that we are surrounded is a planet with tremendous technological transition, right? It seems that it's so fast, right? It's really a fast pace of technological advancement. And now, right, to realize that the earth is populated by very significant number of scientists here and technologists. Like even majority of the kids would love to be scientists and technology who have existed in it throughout the history of mankind. And all these changes, mainly linked to economic growth of the country, are focused on up-to-date expertise and information on economic operation. So in this case, right, we can't, we can't simply have the academic freeze just because, we need to keep learning going. That's why we are adapting, still adapting, right, to the situations. And we would like to give the best quality of education even in times of pandemic. So to continue, okay, as you see in the picture, we have their, different modes now, right, of learning. Even the modern world here with an immersive, learner-centered approach to ICT is fully changed in its mechanism. It's simply one tap on YouTube if you like to watch. It's simply one tap on a webinar. You like to learn something, and that's why there is, a tassel there with a hat, because right, that also shows that you can even graduate even through online courses, and then you have your like a click of the book, right? Why? Because we have now what, our online library. When the teacher says you go to the library, it doesn't mean the physical one, right? Especially now, you can't really go there, but unless if you have mini library in your room. But here, you need to be exposed. I mean, practice, right? Being exposed to different, websites of online public access catalog, just like what we have. You have that account, right? You paid for that. Go to PUP online library, and by the way, you can also see their username and password, right? If you're PPN for ProQuest, if you like to research about something, you may use that account. And right, the way we send, imagine all, especially for the online team, majority of your requirements will be sent through Google Classroom. So it's just, it will be, right, arduous or difficult task for teachers because like online class, you're exposed, right, to these screens, and then even while checking, right? I will really miss my green ball pen when it comes to checking papers. So in this case, right? So simply, right? Even upon waking up, you see here coffee with you, and then you listen to Ma'am early. So as we continue, okay, we should inspire our young people, your young generation, the next generation, right? With new technologies to tap into current talents. Why? Because students are talented, right? However, they become what? If you have watched the interview of Simon Sinek about this is why you don't succeed, right? Those points are for the millennials, or definitely the generation now, right? Because we are into instant things like, okay, Google, tell me something, right, about this topic and so on. And right, with the new technologies to tap into the current talents of the kids, so we need to equip them with better communication skills, cultural awareness, better math skills, better memory, international friends, of course, because you can simply be an international or exchange student or international student in an online class, heightened logic, and better career prospects. So there's even one video I've watched. It's about what if Google, right, is a person. What if he's a person? And then there's a man who's maybe you've watched that video also, and then there's someone, and then you know how lazy the people are. Facebook is already there because it's in the bookmark, right, of Google Chrome, and then still, right, they're asking or they're typing Facebook, and then you know what I mean, right? Everything is instant now, and we need to prepare here, right? May I ask someone to at least describe what you see on the screen so I know it's not that blurry on your part? Yes, Sergey?
Yung naka-illustrate po sa image ay yung sa mga conference, video conference, something like
Correct.
that. Tapos, yun nga po yung pakikipag-interact nila sa isa't isa with the involvement of yung mga laptop and other modern technologies, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, correct. Right? And as you notice, you can only achieve this, what maybe set up, I can say perfection, but set up in the learning environment once we prepare, right? Preparation has become one of the key benefits of utilizing ICT in the school. Why? Right? You cannot simply proceed to implementation without preparation. And the generation now of students in the workforce where ICTs, internet computers, and other similar technologies, softwares are becoming increasingly relevant. Before we thought, oh, no, I'm still, oh, this will not happen, right? We thought that, I mean, right, it's really happening in other cases, especially majority of the English teachers are from the Philippines and they're doing online classes. But when it comes to even putting, the formal setting of education into this kind of setting, right, became very relevant to the demands of technology, such computer savvy. If you're a tech savvy and technically literate students, right, you need to have the expertise, you need to allow, right, you need to allow successful use of ICT. You need to be equipped with this. That's why I even added, right, a sentence in our game, put a finger down, if you haven't experienced the setup LCD projector and laptop, right? Because during my TTL1, I did a quick survey and then I asked those students who haven't experienced that, because it's you shouldn't always rely on one person, right? Especially if you're the teacher, right? I mean, you can ask help when it comes to the setting of the long extension cord, but when it comes to simply relying on students, what if no one knows about it, right? What will happen to the teacher? So you teachers, you need to be equipped with that just by simply doing that. And what I did a quick survey, and then every meeting there was a different student, right, to set up, or who's assigned when it comes to the setting up of all those equipment. And such experienced workers have strategic advantage in a highly unstable globalizing job market. In addition to this technology literacy, the learning of specialized skills is also required. Right? It's not simply about you being, aware. It's about you being equipped on how to use them. Okay. So next. Okay. So we're done with the first part there on the review. So yeah, just wait, right, for the assessment activities in the Google Classroom. I'll be sending them there. So you just have to be patient, and you are given 1 week. So next meeting we will not have synchronous, right? We will not have this video conference. So you will allot your time, right, this week until next week, our meeting, right, for the accomplishment and compliance of the requirements. Again, if you are part of the correspondence team and you are here, you are not required to answer the activities in the Google Classroom. Please do not answer, right, activities in the Google Classroom. So, next. Okay, let's talk about more about inclinations to educational technology. And we notice that the overarching aim of successful teaching is to allow you to learn more effectively. Not just to learn, but to learn more effectively. And studies about how students personally handle learning activities are also of considerable interest to higher education instructors. Why? Because it's so important, it's essential, right? That we consider the interest of our learners. We consider the types of learners that we have. So we can, maximize the idea of collaboration, right? Even metacognition, right? And even other theories when it comes to applying them to a classroom situation. Okay? So just like what you learn, right? I am just simply applying it as well. I told you setting the learning objectives is vital, right? Also, it applies the law of expectation. Later, we'll talk more about the laws. So, for now, I would like to present to you objectives and what we want to achieve. Ma'am, since in this case, I was the one who, provided these objectives, and as you notice, I hope you'll focus on the SMART, right? SMART modifier for objectives. We are specific, measurable, attainable, result oriented, and time bound. Definitely specific. You don't simply say no, or was it at the end of the lesson, the student will be able to explain education technology. Is that specific? No, it's not. You have to, right, go to your activities in your lesson plan and then ask yourself, how are they going to explain? Is it through recitation? Is it through what, writing? So you have to be specific. So in this case, all these, right, uh, all these are output, definitely your output for, right, your requirements in the Google Classroom. So let's proceed. I'm sorry, I'm just talking about still the big picture of the objective. So first, you will interpret the figures in one paragraph. So you will be given figures there, right, to discuss. You will discuss also whether or not you belong to the digital technology generation. Maybe you consider yourself one, but you're still not part of it. Present ideas on how to balance butterfly like multitasking skills with single task skills in accomplishing tasks, especially if you are not a fan of what multitasking. But in this case, we need to, acknowledge that part. Even here, like in my case, I'm multitasking, and maybe you also, right? In my case, I am monitoring everything, I'm screen sharing, right? I am also being aware of if there is someone who sent message in a chat, or who's someone who lost a connection and would like to be readmitted, and so on. So you need to really be flexible. You can simply just sit here and then talk, right? I like I watch or I've attended webinars where, because they're old teachers and they just need to, they need the help of a family member to assist them so that they will just do the talking. So what if that person is not around? So what will happen to us, right? So in this case, you have to be able to multitask, especially in the software. Next objective, you will select 4 laws of learning, because we will discuss many laws later from those that are presented in a discussion. Then think and devise classroom, physical or online activities for your field of specialization or major. So in this case, right, you have to think of what? Specific classroom activities for Filipino. You get what I mean? Okay? This will be checked depending on the specificity of your example or answer. Why? You can simply say, the class will recite blah 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 blah. No, you have to be specific, right? What's the lesson? Okay. By the way, you will be guided there in the assessment part. So these are the things. I hope you are not yet overwhelmed by all these, but let's continue. Okay, how do students learn? So we'll talk about laws of learning, theories of learning, dimensions of learning, and approaches to study. So let's talk about the laws. So first law is, okay, law of readiness. Maybe you've heard of Edward Thorndike. Can you give me hard react if you have met him in one of your courses? Not yet. Anyone? Teaching professional? Edward Thorndike. Okay, for Edward Thorndike, he is the proponent of the 3 major laws or 4 major laws of right learning. But I added more here. So if you have previewed the IM, that's good, right? You can simply just be guided again here. So students learn more quickly as they want to learn, right? And in comparison, students have a hard time to study if they aren't interested in the subject. Imagine from the very beginning that the subject is not of the student's interest, he will not be able to start learning. So that the idea, right, of this law of readiness is simply a preparatory set on the part of the student to learn, or what we call the organism. And it points out that one learns only when he is physically and mentally ready for it. So make sure that the student is physically ready. Why? For example, young learners, or even what, secondary Filipino, secondary students in a Filipino subject or course, right? You can still do TPR, or total physical response style, right? And you like them to stand and then, right? But they need to be physically ready, because if they're not, right, they will look like, okay, I need to sleep map, or so on and so forth. So another thing is mentally ready for it, right? Maybe you've experienced to be assigned a reading activity and you're not ready for it, right? Because for you, you need to have your mood first, right? You need to set your mood when it comes to reading. Can you give me a haha react there? Anyone? Can you give me a haha react if you experience that? Okay, right? So for you, even if you read it for so many times, right? You've read it for so many times, still nothing, right, enters your brain. Why? Because you are not ready for it. Okay, and that is the idea of law of readiness. So in other words, right, preparatory set on the part of the student is an important condition for learning. And when the student is prepared, of course, to do some work, the act of doing is satisfying, right? Because you're ready for it. For example, instead of just waking up and then opening your laptop or smartphone and then coming into this video conference, you also took a bath, right? You also eat your breakfast. Why? Because you prepare yourself. That's part of being ready. Okay? So, however, right, if the act of doing is satisfying, and or I mean if it's not, right, it will be some kind of annoying, right? Like, mom, it's too early and you're asking us to read this long text, right? In that sense. So that definitely, breaks the idea of law of readiness. And conversely, when he does not want to work and you force, or for example, you are forced to work, that is so dissatisfying for you. And if you are not willing to learn, forcing you to learn will cause, right, annoyance on your part. And many of you, right, will soon get disinterested in learning because you're not ready for it. And this teacher kept on forcing you, right, to be ready. So do not force your learners, right, to learn. when they're not physically and mentally ready for it. Okay, so you may learn, right? So you may learn if you are prepared. May I ask for an experience, a concrete experience from you in the classroom that we can apply law of readiness, or you experience that you are forced to learn. That's why you get annoyed. May I call one? Can you show me a finger or fingers, Sir Van? 1 to 5. I will call 3. Okay, thank you. 1, 2, 3. Ma'am Jonah?
Yes po. Ay,
Yes, can you give us your experience when it comes to this law?
ano po, usually 'di ba ma'am kapag nasa classroom po, tas halimbawa meron pong ah, mag ang tawag dito, magle-lesson, yung halimbawa po si Sir Joey nagbibigay po muna siya ng, mga motivation or pa-games
Mm-hmm.
para maging ready yung estudyante. Like hindi niya po pupunta agad dun sa lesson or kaya magsasabi siya ng news.
Mm-hmm.
Tapos po ire-relate niya tapos ayun po ma'am, hanggang sa maging topic na po namin yung hanggang sa mapag-usapan na po namin yung mismong topic namin,
Okay, yeah,
yun po.
that's correct. That's correct, right? Especially if you are teaching a learner, right? But I hope that the motivation is already relevant to at least the course in general or the topic to be presented. Okay, but yeah, you have to, relate and look at, what's happening in the world and be able to relate that to your topic. Correct, Ma'am Jonah, thank you. Another? Give me number, Sir Van. There's a raise of hands, Sir J. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ano po, very particular po ako sa mental health. Kung naalala mo po last week, ako po yung nagsabi na
Mention.
ganito.
Mhm.
Ayun po, like, as a teacher, dapat talaga na ma-consider yung ibang aspects like emotional and mental aspects. Kasi when a student is physically, alam mo po yun, like physically present, it doesn't mean na
Mhm.
mentally and emotionally, like
Yeah.
uh, mentally and emotionally ready siya or available. No, parang it's just, you're just being forced. Yun nga po yung parang sinabi niya. Pero it doesn't mean na parang napipilitan siya. Though gusto talaga niya, nandun yung dedication, nandun yung kagustuhan, pero hindi talaga nakiki-cooperate yung, alam niyo po yun, yung
Body and mind.
yung mind and other ano niya, sa welfare niya. Tapos yun po nasulat ko rito yung professional and personal involvement ng isang teacher
Mm.
na hindi dapat merong magdo-dominate dun sa dalawang yun, yung sa professional and personal dapat balance siya kasi uh, in terms of professional dapat yun nga po like sa mga technical and objective aspects ng teacher, and at the same time kailangan mo magkaroon ng personal involvement sa estudyante mo
Right.
na magkaroon ka or mag-raise ka ng like sympathy, empathy, and compassion,
Mhm.
no? Para po magkaroon ng effectiveness yung learning process lalo na ngayon sa new normal of education, yung online. So
Okay.
dapat mas magkaroon ng pagko-considerate yung mga teacher ngayon.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Establishing rapport first, right? For at least as long as, as much as the students realize that the teacher understands their situation, I think that's one, right? Mental preparation for, or emotional preparation for the students. And you can do this via pre-work activity, just like what Ma'am Jonah said a while ago, right? Pre-work activity, short video introducing the content. I think we did that earlier, right? And by creating anticipation, just like setting your learning objectives, that can also what do you call, activate their readiness. And you are also building learner excitement and motivating them before they ever even access the content. So, right, yes, we have our internal, intrinsic motivation, but it's still important that we have external or extrinsic motivation from the environment, from your teacher, right? Even from your classmates. So let students know why it is important to learn a subject and what can they expect from the course. So by sharing, right, with you, the learners, what you will learn, you are already motivating the students to meet the standards. So, okay. Thank you for those insights. Next, law of effect. So this law Okay, it talks about that learning can also be even more successful where a feeling of fulfillment, enjoyment, or incentive is part of the equation. Those are the effects. If you feel, what if you have the self fulfillment because you did this, you enjoyed it, that's an effect. Of course, positive effect, and then you receive incentive, right? I remember I've seen this meme or picture on Facebook about what do you call this? There is in for the student to be able to finish the module. Maybe you've seen the picture. There are 500s, right? Have you seen that? 500 peso on this part of the module and 500 peso. 500. So in that sense, that's extrinsic. That's what we call incentives. That's also law of effect that is being applied there. So the law of effect principle developed by Edward Thorndike as well suggested that response is closely followed by satisfaction that will become firmly attached to the situation and therefore more likely to reoccur when the situation is repeated. Just try to imagine, right, that you have 500, like every day you have 500 motivation there. Or, for example, simply intrinsic motivation. When you praise a student, later I will show you that there's a need to maximize the use of 100 ways to praise instead of simply very good, very good, very good, right? It's annoying at some point, maybe at first time receiving it, it's great. Right? Ay, na very good ako ni ma'am. But, for majority of the learners, it's annoying, right? Very good, very good. Hello, there are 100 plus ways to praise your student. It depends on how they answer. And make sure, right, you listen to the answers of your students and you react on it. I am into that immediate feedback. Later, we'll talk about love feedback. But yeah, conversely, if the situation is followed by discomfort and the connection to the situation will become weaker and the behavior of response is less likely to occur when the situation is repeated. So, if the effect is bad or negative, for example, I can't say, right, that it really made me weak, but at some point, I cannot forget the situation that I had a homework when I was in high school, and it's about the creation. And just because of not knowing, okay, or not understanding, sorry, maybe I don't know if it's my fault or it's my teacher's fault, but I think I misunderstood the instructions. Okay, the instructions supposedly need to mean or meant to for us to create our own creation story, and I think I misunderstood that. So but I exerted effort. Imagine, I exerted effort. I went to our, because we have our clinic at home, because my daughter is a doctor, but um on the side, I mean, my Tito is also, my uncle is a pastor, and then he has this all like poster like, pictures, right, of Bible stories, and then at the back, very small text, and then I copied everything. Imagine, I exerted effort, I wrote everything, only to find out that I will get 79 grade in that homework. I felt so bad about it. I think because the teacher was simply our neighbor. So I think my mom even went to her just to ask, like, why? Because I exerted effort. It was a very long, right? The story of creation that I presented. I thought it was that, and then she told my mom that I wasn't able to follow instructions. That's why I got 79. So in that case, right, the effect for me is not good, of course. Even though that's only homework, that's a big deal. I don't know. I was grade conscious back then, but now I'm not, of course. Next, imagine that you arrive early to work one day by accident, and for example, your boss notices and praises your diligence. That's an effect, and the praise makes you feel good. So it reinforces the behavior, and you start showing up for work a little bit early the next day, right, to keep receiving your boss's commendations. But even if you don't receive your boss's commendation, sorry, right, you just do it because you have integrity, because you're a teacher, and you still come to class early, not because, right, you will be commended by your students, right, but because you like to leave a legacy and you like to set as a role model. And for more examples, right, if you study and then you get a good grade on a test, right, it's the opposite of what I shared earlier, and you will be more likely to study for the next term, right? Oh, I got perfect score here, at least one mistake, I would do better next time, I will still do my best. So that's a positive effect for the law of effect. And if you work hard and then receive a promotion, for example, and pay a raise, you will be more likely to continue to put in more effort at work, right? Because, oh, there's increase of salary, and of course, I would like to do it. And for another example, if you run a red light, then get a traffic ticket, of course you will really be annoyed and you will be less likely to disobey traffic lights in the future, right? Because okay, you passed this one, so right, you will not anymore follow it. Okay, so there are two key concepts for the law of effect, right? It talks about the behavior of the learner, and behavior is immediately followed by favorable consequences if that's a positive behavior, and that's more likely to occur again. For example, right, the behavior that you like to change in yourself, for example, is waking up early, right? And that's the behavior, the positive behavior that you like. So the favorable consequence is that if and only if, of course, here attendance is not required, but at least for your self fulfillment, right, and self preparation, that is a favorable consequence. Another example is, um, can you give me more? Another thing, or emotional reaction, for instance, of the learner, right? If it is strengthened when you are praised, right? Even just by simply, great, your answer is perfect, and so on. I assume, right, that that definitely changed your learning habits. So next law, let me ask first you for example, concrete example for the law of effect. Can you give me a number, Sir J? 1 to 5.
Number 4 po, ma'am.
1, 2, 3, 4. Sir Eugene, can you recall, right, an experience of yours? Oh, what happened? So, can you recall a scenario in your what classroom or any lesson? I sorry, you're glitching.
Ngayon, yung sa tingin ko pong may kinalaman po sa akin sa love effect. Kasi madalas po sa mga contest po noon, nung ako po ay nasa high school,
Mm-hmm.
ah, para magkaroon po kami ng motivation ng mga estudyante na kunin yung top spot, halimbawa sa isang division contest. May nakalagay po na first place 92 yung pinakamababang grade, tapos second place 92 yung pinakamababang grade. So yun po yung naging motivation po namin. Tapos halimbawa yung iba pong motivation ng ibang estudyante po na kasi ako po hindi pa po nakasakay ng airplane
Oh,
dati. So yun po yung naging motivation ng teacher ko po na kung gusto mo makasakay ng airplane, kailangan mo manalo sa isang regional competition. Tapos pupunta po kami sa
and
national competition. Kaya
and you did? You're able to write?
po,
Oh, okay. That's great news.
yun na lang.
Thank you, Sir Eugene. Another experience, anyone? Okay. Someone raise a hand. Sir Eugene, can you give me a number?
Number 5 po.
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ma'am Kyla? You there, Ma'am Kyla? Ma'am Kyla? Are you there? Please try to unmute yourself so we can hear your insight. Or Sir Win, would you like to say something? Sir Win?
Oh, sorry. I just unmuted myself. Okay. So, as the law of effect say that students are more likely to learn when they feel satisfied or are being rewarded. So, just like what Eugene said,
Mm-hmm.
during my high school days, because I'm also used to joining contests like in division and regional contests. So, when by being get excused to other subjects, like when our teachers are always saying or rewarding us by if we win by at least third place or second place or even as champion,
Mm-hmm.
we will already get an advanced grade for all our subjects, for all the other subjects. So that's already a reward in part of us for being excused for almost a month or for even just weeks. Then another example for this law of effect in our just normal days in classroom is that when our teachers or our professors are creating an activity that includes rewards for like giving extra incentives for our grades or just even giving some tokens. And another example that I can give is that by sim or by our teachers or professors by simply giving or providing feedback to learners regularly about our progresses.
Okay. By the way,
So
that's also another law, okay? The law of feedback, okay? But
okay,
yeah, that can also be possible here because for you that's an what incentive or it changes, right? The feeling that talks about law of effect. Thank you. Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Okay. Another Ma'am Sheila, example for law of effect.
Hello po ma'am, good morning po.
Morning.
Sa akin po, siguro during those grade school days ko po. Kasi po before, sa room namin, onti lang yung girls. Tapos, ako po kasi hindi po ako masyadong marunong makisama or sa simula. Pero kapag nakuha ko na yung ugali mo, ganyan. So, dahil onti lang kaming girls, na na nagkaroon kami ng parang, usapan then naging close po kami eventually. Ta's dun ko rin po nalaman na parehas po pala kami ng talent. Ang pinagkaiba lang po naming tatlo is silang dalawa iba yung, genre nila sa
Raya.
kanta. Tapos po, dumating po sa time 'di ba 'pag sa school po kasi meron kaming club. Sumali po kami ng club, yung Glee Club. Ta's yung teacher po yung mentor po namin is yun din po yung advisory class namin. So, at first, hindi po talaga masyado akong pansinin nun, lalo na sa pagkanta po kasi, ano, yung genre ko po kasi hindi siya pangbirit eh. Iba po kasi talaga yung boses ko. So, parang yung time na yun na-realize ko baka hindi po ako pang singing, ganyan. Tapos may time na nag-perform po kami sa buong campus po namin. Tapos ako po yung naka-receive ng maraming
Wow.
students, ganyan, sa mga higher batch po, sa professors. Tapos hanggang ngayon po, yung mga professor ko po na yun, na friend ko po sa Facebook, ganyan. Kapag nag-upload po ako ng video ko sa social media, pinapanood po nila and then nagko-comment sila or sinishare po nila something. Sa akin po parang na-build yung confidence ko po when it comes to singing and also performing in front of many people. Yun po.
Great, great. Wow. That's great news, right? And that's positive effect on your part. Yes, Ma'am Ira, you'd like to say something?
Sino po, ma'am? Ara po ba o Ira?
Ira raised a
Ay,
hand. Sorry.
sorry po.
She raised a hand. I don't know why. Ma'am Ira, would you like to say something? Ira? She raised her hand. Are you there? Okay, I don't think so. So, how about Ma'am Ira? Would you like to say something?
Nung first year college po kami, nung sa Bayang Pagbigkas po, sinabi po sa amin nung prof namin na si Sir Poy na kapag nakuha po namin yung place, either third, second, or champion po, may specific grade po kami para doon. Kung ari po, pag sa first, sabi niya po, uno lahat kami.
Wow.
Then, sa second po, 1.25, then sa third, 1.5, and so on po, ganun. And luckily naman po, ayun, nakapasok po kami sa finals, then naging ano po kami, second, then
Oh,
ayun po, naging uno naman po lahat kami. Yung, so kumbaga, in short, lahat po nung pinaghirapan namin, naging mabunga naman po dahil nakakuha po kami ng uno.
yeah, great, great. That's a positive effect as well. Thank you for your insights. Let's proceed to another law, which is law of relaxation. Like who doesn't like to feel relaxed, right? Before they start doing something and so on. So students know well and remember the longest periods when they feel relaxed, and the avoidance of tension improves understanding and memory. If you have heard about this teaching method, it's a language teaching method called Suggestopedia. It is when it originated in the 1970s by a Bulgarian psychologist, Georgy Lozanov. And the name actually suggests, I mean, the terms, okay, mean suggestion and pedagogy. So in this case, the teacher will play a music, a soothing music, right, while he is giving instructions to the learner. So in that sense, right, the very beginning, slowly, right, well, discussing the instructions, what to do, you are being, I mean, your mood is being set. So that's law of relaxation. So, or maybe at your own pace, right, at your own right situation, on your own situation, you relax yourself before you listen to music first, before you study, or for to some, right, they like listening to music the entire time they're studying. So next, okay, law of association. So this is common also, right? This is a concept. Also, learning makes meaning or understanding is the subconscious relates a fresh concept to one previously learned. So this is a common learning, learning law of a learner, for instance. So we always associate one thing to another. Definitely, that one thing was already part of our brain or schema or our stock knowledge. That's why whenever you see something new and you realize, oh, I think they're the same. Right? I think it's the same with the previous thing I encountered. Right? So for however, that's only association to the exact word, no modification, because when you modify, that is called accommodation. So example, for association, you've seen a cat for the first time, and you've realized it's a fur animal and with four legs, right? However, you also saw a dog for the first time. And then you associate it with a cat. So four legs and also a fur animal. That's why you call dog a cat. You get what I mean? That's association. You associate. However, when you say accommodation, it's different from association. When we talked about accommodation, you modify. So for example, oh yeah, it has four legs, it is a fur animal, but it doesn't look like that. Right? So in that case, you have to figure out what's that called, and that's a dog, and this one is a cat. So this law of association states that for you to remember anything you are learning, you must associate it with something that is similar to what you are learning. So if when you are reviewing, right, and then you encounter a word and you realize, oh, this is what our teacher in another course told us. So you already know it. Okay, you already know it. And at the same time, right, for example, you have difficulty spelling the word separate. Okay, it's separating. So separate. Sometimes you misspell it what as separate. Maybe you're confused. This is one of the commonly misspelled words. So to separate means to part. So that's your clue, to part. So in other words, for you to remember the word separate, you can associate it with the word part. To part, separate, right? And you will easily remember the spelling while learning it. And another instance for one that goes to church, for example, when you go to the altar to drop your offering, right? It is important that when you return, you should find the right place where you were sitting, right? Even though it doesn't have your name on it. Okay, since the chairs in church would usually look alike, so how would you do it? How would you find your seat there? You may recall that you often you associate the position of your seat with something else, such as, for example, number or rows in front of it, right, to the offering basket, or you always see this TV here, and then you realize, oh, you are seated on the second row, right, in front of that TV there. Okay, so those are things that you can apply this. How about you? How about your learning experiences about law of Sir Yulin, are you there? It's okay. Take your time. Someone raise a hand. Sir John Clark.
Real life events
Correct. Yeah.
sa po and real
Correct. Yeah.
scenarios.
Wow. Very. Yeah, that's great explanation. Thank you, Sir Clark. Right. Associating to real life events, not just imagination. Right. That's very important in the learning process. Thank you, Sir Clark. Another one would like to raise a hand. Sir Yulin, have you thought of? Or Sir Jomar? Yes. Would you like to give us an example of this based on your experience?
Hindi ko pa alam kung masasabi ko po ang example 'to, eh.
Let me
Pero yung ano po, law of ano 'to ba, remembering something ano, parang sa paglalaro po ng basketball, ma'am. Kasi sa PE po dati 'pag mas ano yun, third year ata yun, grade 8, grade 9. Tas may yung PE po ano, basketball. Bale yung teacher namin is babae po, tapos tinuturo niya lang po yung mga ano, mga rules, tas kung paano laruin. Pero di namin natutunan yung basketball sa gano'n. Pero gaya po nung sinabi ni Clark kanina po na when we experience how to play, parang dun mas natutunan talaga.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Also applying it, right, to real life a scenario. Thank you for
Yes
that,
po.
Jomar. So next we have law of involvement, which is very crucial in this time of pandemic in the new normal setup in education. Right? Students know better as you take students take active role of studying. That's why as much as possible I get your attention, right, for you to share your insights about it. And this law of involvement suggests that the more you engage someone's five senses and involve them mentally, physically, and create the right atmosphere for persuasion, the more effective and persuasive you become. And yeah, personally, right, this law of involvement is the ability to make people feel comfortable by inspiring participation. Eliciting performance is a must for teachers inside the classroom, may that be physical or virtual, right? So you may associate it also, or it's somehow synonymous with the law of connectivity. So actively involving the person or the student, right, you are talking with, it requires the law of involvement. That's why as much as possible, it's okay, I understand that you need to turn off your cam because but to save data, right, or internet. However, right, it's more, I feel more involved even as a teacher, and you feel more involved if you can. I mean, definitely you can see me even if we're camera on, but I would also love to see you. Okay, so let us watch this video, and I would like you to tell me what did the teacher do to Mark, Sir Mark. Thank you,
Good morning, ma'am.
Mark.
In this scene of, hello, ma'am.
If you manage a team,
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, I can hear you now.
Ma'am, in this scene of Dead Poets Society, Robin Williams, who plays a teacher, involve his students by making them get up and move. He also has them read aloud from a book. He engaged them on various levels and makes them involved.
Okay.
Uh, uh,
Notice that. Would you like to add there?
as per EJ, hello, ma'am.
Yes, you may continue.
Um, as per EJ Spencer, he believed that the law of involvement is the ability to make people feel comfortable by inspiring participation.
Mhm. Yeah, correct, right? As you notice, would you like that you just read from, right? You just read for the example. So may you
Ma'am?
specify that part of the scene where, or the film, because you just read it. I noticed verbatimly.
Uh, yes, ma'am. I'm here in search engine. Wait, ma'am.
Would you like to pinpoint the parts where Robin Williams, okay, involved the learners? Because it's easy to search, and I noticed that you read it what word by word. So how about yours? Okay, let's wait for some Mark. How about Sir J?
Hello ma'am.
Hello.
Ah, Personally po, pinaka-favorite kong movie ang Dead Poets Society and thank you for playing that again.
Mm,
Opo, talagang sobra akong na-move ng movie na 'yan.
yeah.
Pero, yun nga po parang isa sa mga, ah, driving force and motivation ko ngayon kung bakit ko gusto pa mas pagpatuloy yung education po.
Oh,
Kasi mas na-motivate ako with how Mr. Keating 'no, Robin Williams, like, influence his students
mhm.
by looking things in a different way. Sabi nga po niyan like, ito po iko-quote ko yung, "I stand upon my desks to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a very different way." So isa sa mga striking dialogues or points dun sa movie na 'yan na kailangan nating, ah, ayun po like given the traditional approach of learning ganyan or yung mga teaching methods ganyan, ah, at the same time we must consider na yun nga po like consider natin yung progressive approach and teaching na we must instill to our students that they should be ano po yun, like they should be the motivators of themselves and they must strive for the betterment of their own
Correct.
like of their own education. At yun po like fan talaga ako ng yun nga po like yung pagtibag sa mga conventional stuff, gano'n po. Like yun yung sa principle ko na pwede naman tayong humiling sa mga conventional approach to
Mhm.
some things pero dapat nating tingnan na yun nga po like 'wag natin o-overlook yung chances or yung fact na there's more.
Mm,
There's still more na kailangan nating pagtuunan ng pansin at hindi lang tayo mag-focus sa isang bagay. We should always think outside the box. Yun po, yun yung
correct.
kaya sobra kong naging favorite yung movie na Dead Poets
Ah,
Society.
okay.
Talagang
It's
nagma-mark
good
siya sa'kin.
also, right? That you're familiar with the film. Thank you. This is another, right? That's correct. This is another example, one of my favorite films as well. I would like you to focus on the this part of the. Oh, great! Yeah, Sir Clark, John have watched it. Yeah, that's good news. It's based on a true story, and these students of Ma'am Erin Gruel are definitely gang members, but because of her help, by the way, the game is called Line Game. Alright, it's a line game to also allow because these kids are not into showing who they really are. They're not into that, but because of the help of Ma'am Erin Gruel, they were able to share their life events, experiences in a journal, and then it started Freedom Writers because they're called Freedom Writers. And you can also listen to Ma'am Erin Gruel TED Talk. She's a real teacher, right? And yeah, she's an educator and president of the Freedom Writers. In this part of the film, you notice that all members of the class are involved, depending on how relatable also the questions are for the kids. And okay, so I hope you'll learn a lot from that example. Make sure that your students are involved. Next, okay, law of exercise. Okay, this law of exercise talks about, the more times an act becomes repeated or material is checked, the sooner and more effectively it becomes a routine. So, if you can recall your drills and practices, right, when you were in elementary or high school, if you're familiar with the window cards, are you familiar with the window cards, right? Right? Every time, or the DD cards, I don't know why we call that a DD card, right? These are, cardboard with windows, and then you have to check or test your speed when it comes to computing subtraction, addition, multiplication. So, law of exercise was definitely applied to that. And remember back in grade school when your teacher would have you to write spelling words, sometimes three times each, or for example, word of the day, right? You are also practicing the law if you just tend to practice it every time. So, asking you what words to define and then use them in sentences. And yeah, so second part of this law of exercise talks about the knowledge not used becomes weakened and disappears from memory. So if you have a skill right now, and or even before you know you are a great artist when it comes to drawing stuff and so on, right? And then you stop for a while, and then suddenly you realize when you get back to it, it weakens, right? But it's still there, right? But when you don't exercise one, for example, you know how to play ukulele or guitar, but you stop, sometimes at weekends or even when you're dancing or you're a dancer, right? They call it in Filipino, kinakalawang, right? Or medyo rusty, for instance. But when you go back to exercising it, to practicing it in repetitive times, right? They're applying the law of exercise. So meaning they will be able to excel and strengthen that skill. How about in your case? May I ask for a classroom situation or experience in elementary or secondary where you apply this law of exercise? May I ask for Sir Clinton? You there?
Morning po, ma'am.
Morning.
Yung when I was elementary po, kapag uuwi po kami, pinagbabasa po kami ni teacher and then kung kapag nabasa mo po siya ng maayos, pwede ka na pong umuwi and then ganun din po ulit na nangyari.
Yeah, correct. The reading comprehension. Thank you, Sir Clinton. Reading comprehension activities, right? That you can never forget. Why? You always see, right? I mean, beside, right, the teacher's table or in front of the teacher's table, and then read the context and then answer the questions that follow, and that's repetitive, right? Correct. Who else? Sir Lester.
Sa tingin ko po kapag nagkakaroon po ng recitation, kasi po napapractice rin po yung pagpa-public speak po ng estudyante tsaka po ng pagbuo po ng ideas nila sa natutunan po nila.
Correct. That's right. Okay, just like what I told you last time, right? Even the quietest student in the class can be the most talkative at the end of the quarter or semester, right? Because it's exercising, so you keep on allowing them to talk, let them recite and participate. Yeah, that's correct. Law of exercise. Okay, and we have this video right here. Still loading. Okay, or if you can recall, right, the sali salita. I sorry, the Howl and the Pussycat earlier, right? If you notice, that's one example for law of exercise. He kept on, I mean, Aaron Nemibao kept on practicing saying fussy turned to pussy, right? Right? And then howl, from howl to owl, right? Honey, like from oni to honey, money to money, right? That's exercise there. So next is the law of relevance. And you can say that you have effective learning, right? And efficient learning that is relevant to your context. So as teachers, I would challenge you or dare you that every time you talk to your student, think, okay, you have to imagine that they have imaginary bubbles on top of their heads, okay, that ask you the question, so what? Okay, maybe the tone is not good, but you have to question yourself that the students are asking, Mom, so what if you know that? So what? Right? So what if we memorize all the laws? Right? How are we going to apply those in the classroom setting? That's why we are giving you examples. You're also giving the class examples, right? Sample situation where these laws are definitely around. However, we're not aware that there are laws, right? But you are already exercising them. So in this case, relevant of the discussion, explanation, examples, okay, is very important, especially the use of your IMs. How can we apply that? By contextualizing, localizing, and indigenizing instruction and materials. When we say contextualization of IMs, so for instance, you really love downloading PDF or worksheets online. However, they're in the context of America, and then you'd like to use them in the Philippines. So you have to change the context. Like they have dollar here, we have Philippine peso. That's one. When it comes to localization, it depends on their specific locality. For example, in Santa Maria, Bulacan, I think chicharon, if I'm right, chicharon is the trend, a snack there that they have. And then how will you be able to use, right, their cultural awareness when it comes to chicharon? And then how about in other places? So that's localization, while indigenization is, I mean, this refers to the indigenous people. So for instance, you're teaching the kids and you like to teach them the pie chart, for instance. Okay, and then you don't have pizza there, but your thinking was pizza, and they're not aware of pizza. So what what food or what stuff or what object, right, or what realia can you present to them that is also available to their environment? So maybe they have kakanin there, so you may use that to teach that kind of lesson. And we have someone who raised a hand. Sir Joel, like to add? Sir Joel, you raised your hand.
Ay, ma'am, yung dun po yun, ma'am, kanina sa isa.
It's okay, you may
Yung
share
sa law of, ano po ba yun?
exercise.
Law of exercise. Ma'am, yung ano, share ko lang kahit
Sure.
relevance na po tayo. Ano, nung grade 1 po ako, tsaka kinder, masyado akong stricto sa pagsusulat. Kumbaga, yung letter J ko na pangalan, ilang beses kong paulit-ulit na sinusulat dun sa grade 1 na papel hanggang ma-align ko yung letter sa red to blue, ganun. Tapos, masyado po akong maaksaya sa papel nun hanggat hindi ko po na-exercise yung kamay ko na ayusin yung pagsusulat dun sa mga papel. Kaya po, yun, sa patuloy na pag-exercise ng sa pagsusulat, napapaganda ko yung pagsusulat ko hanggang ngayon po.
Wow, yeah, that's great. Exercise or practice of writing skill. Okay. How about the others? You're an example before we watch this video for law of relevance. Anyone would like to add? Going back to asking yourself the question, so what, right? Usually this happens, for example, in math subject, right? And then, so what if we memorize the formula? So what if we know mean, median, mode? How are we going to apply those concepts in research? How about in your field, Filipino? What is the usual scenario when you ask a teacher, so what, ma'am, if you know that? Right? So that talks about, or that clamors for relevance of the explanation to the discussion. Anyone? Filipino subject, what's your usual scenario? Even when you're in elementary or secondary, right? What's your usual Filipino questions of relevance?
Ma'am, ako po.
Are? Yeah.
Madeline po.
Nad-
Paminsan po kasi, lalo na nung first year college ako, kasi galing ako sa cookery, yung course ko nung senior high, tapos na-transfer ako sa Filipino major. Parang nagpaisip ako, ano ba yung relevance or importansya nitong Filipino major? So, ngayon po na nag-aaral na po ako, nagdadalubhasa na po kami sa Filipino. Ngayon ko lang po napagtanto kung ano yung relevance o yung importansya ng ko, yun po.
Correct, yeah. Right, the relevance of what you were doing before, right? And now your field, correct. How about Sir Mark? You raised your hand.
Yes. Ang tanong ko po dung high school, ano naman kung inaaral na, anong saysay ng mga akda ni Jose Rizal, like No Limitangere, El Fili. Ano bang magagamit namin dun in the future? Then, napagtanto ko na nitong pumasok ako sa PUP na may behind values pala yung mga kwento doon. Akala ko ano lang siya. Tawag doon, fiction. Yung pala relative siya relative siya sa Philippine society. And then
Wow, I didn't even see that part. Okay. How about in the part of the learner? That's a great insight looking at the different angle. How about on the part of Josh? And what happened with the use of your, the technology there, the technology that's IM, right? The material, the needle can, and then, the picking of words. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Sir Yulin. Yes, that's right. How about Sir Clark? Okay, very well said and explained, Sir Clark, right? The mom can be a teacher there, and the Josh, definitely the learner, and then the grandfather, together with the technique that he did, became your I am, right? And then you need to meet halfway through that material, right? You can connect, right? The realities, for example, what's really happening, you can notice that in the last part, right? That everything is relevant. You don't simply ask the students to, for example, the father didn't simply ask the grandfather didn't simply ask Josh to write any random words. No, he even asked important questions, right? Sino ang pinakamahal mong tao and so on. So in that sense, and then they were able to relate it to their lives, not only in the imagination of Josh. Great job, Sir Clark. Thank you for that. Okay. Next, law of intensity. Are you seeing the screen now? Okay, law of intensity. So you can see that there is a need for what excitement for your online learning, even if it's physical learning, right? And the more likely it will be remembered if it's what exciting, fun, right? And enthusiastic, for instance. And you have to create hands-on experience. It's not always about manipulating, right, or using your hands, but it can simply be any activity that they use their, their hands together with their minds, or one that causes the student to feel strong emotion that will make the lesson more really or easily remembered. I usually remember that every time I will ask my students to watch a simple short film, and then they cry, right? Instead of simply just getting the main point of or the answer to my question, but it's more of looking at the other facets of the short film or any video, and then I appreciate that you see different angles, right? That where we can stand as the teacher, and then we have the learner, and then the IN. So next. Okay. By the way, I supposed to have, but to save time, I supposed to have video here. But if you can recall, maybe who among you have watched Every Child is Special? I think all of us. Okay, so great. So if you can recall, for those who haven't, but if you can recall the part where the teacher enter the classroom and then they dance, right? They dance and then sing. Yeah, that's an example for the law of intensity. I hope, of course, you're secondary teachers, but I hope still that you are, you are open to being so confident when it comes to performing in class, right? For example, of course, I've done that in Filipino subject, stage play, role play. I even played the role of Marimar. I even played the role of Sisa and so on. So all these, right, activities that can make your not just course, not just your name be remembered, but the lesson. Okay, next. Law of challenge. So in this video, again, for those who've watched Freedom Writers, we need to save time. So for law of challenge, right, children or your learners perform well when faced by innovation. So in the film, okay, Erin Gruwell, the teacher, challenged the students, right, to write their experiences in the journal because, again, they're not open to it and they're not fond of writing their life events, and also because they're ashamed of, the horrible situations at, they're in at the moment, right? But in this case, she challenged them at the same time. This last part of the film, Freedom Writers, she even dared or challenged the students to write, right? To type and to create or publish a book when it talking about their life experiences, and that's why the title of the book also became Freedom Writers. So imagine, right? Students felt so hopeless about their life, but because of you, you're there as their teacher, right? You're able to make a difference in their lives. Thank you for that, Manjona. And the next law of feedback, also in that film, right? We can see here that Ma'am Erin Gruwell was talking to a kid, and this, or a student, maybe you'll not say that that's a kid, but okay, there's a student who cried in front of her because this student was so negative about himself. And as you notice, right, as you can read there on the screen, Ma'am Erin Gruwell said, I see and you are not failing. So you have to be very sincere when it comes to believing in your student for you to see what they can. Okay? So it's so important that we give effective feedback. May that be, in my case, I'm into immediate oral feedback, right? Well, that can be given, right, any time of the discussion, just like your 100 ways to praise. And for written feedback, you may do that, of course, after they did an activity. And there's also informal, formal feedback, descriptive, evaluative. Descriptive and evaluative may be done for, I mean, during the performance. I mean, even after the performance. At the same time, where recitation, I am I advise the teachers that whenever someone recites, you really need to listen, and you have to reiterate what they said. If you notice, I kept on doing that because students need to realize that you are listening to them, right? Why? Maybe you've experienced this in the class, like when you recite and then the teacher would just say, okay, and the next, right? Maybe you've experienced that. Or worst scenario is that no okay, no response, and then another answer, right? Jumping to another classmate, and then you were left there, right? Asking, did I say something right or am I wrong, right? How will you know your performance if there's no feedback? So it's important that we give feedback: verbal, written, oral, informal, formal, descriptive, evaluative, even peer assessment. I appreciate peer assessment. I am just sad that it will be a hard thing to do in this kind of setup, but I think I've been using peer assessment for 2 to 3 years. Okay. And then I just watched a video. It's an American setting, kind of context for students and teachers. And based on the feedback of the students, peer assessment is very effective. Why? Because they can see that, right, their opinions are valid, the corrections are also what helpful and beneficial for their classmates, that it's not always the teacher's feedback that is the end of everything, but also the students or their classmates feedback. And they feel also knowledgeable about something because they can give advices and comments on others papers, unlike the teacher. If the teacher said, okay, it's wrong, and then it's wrong, right? But when it comes to peer assessment, you can even defend yourself, like, okay, you know what, I did this part, and there's backup of that statement on the last paragraph, and so on. So far, right, peer assessment is effective in all my classes. So it is the quality also of feedback that counts, right? I told you earlier, very good, very good, very good. It's irritating to the ears, right? Even if you receive it, right? If you receive it once, then good. If it's too much, it's annoying. So you may use other feedback. Later, I'll show you 100 ways to pray. So, or you may start downloading 100 ways to praise, and you need to practice that. For example, that's the most appropriate answer, and then you will say, bullseye, you got it right. But then you have to make sure that you don't simply deliver them, right? And good, great. You'd have to back it up. Like, why is it good, right? You have to justify that. And because meaningful feedback is it's very impactful for a student. Okay. So also for law of feedback, right? Too often feedback is provided to students after learning has concluded, and or like during. In my case, I'm really into immediate feedback. Why? Because not all the time you can apply it. For example, I even ask my students if they like, if if they like a post feedback, for instance, like after they conduct their micro teaching, right? And then once a class told me, okay, ma'am, just on the last part you gave that to us. And then in my case, just by reiterating or announcing all these comments to them, I don't think they remember, right? I mean, they remember some, especially those subjective or praises. But when it comes to the comments, right, if you will not do it right away, this is for me, okay? If you do it right away, I don't think they will be able to apply. Why? Because there was one time I do this immediate feedback. I think it's about the pronunciation of one word or the verbal filler. For example, verbal filler, right? You keep on saying, parang, ano, right? You keep on doing that, or you have nonverbal mannerism, any verbal or nonverbal mannerism. I told my student, okay, you know what? Your classmates are only counting your parang, right? They're only counting your verbal fillers instead of listening to your content or what you're talking about. And then I told him, you have to be aware of that. And then he continued. And then he kept on saying parang, parang, until he became conscious that he kept on overusing parang or ano, right? So, hello, we can't understand one another if we keep on saying ano. Alam mo, naalala mo yung ano, ni ano, right? So, what's ano? So, in that sense, you have to turn on your monitor hypothesis. By the way, this is a language theory or hypothesis by Stephen Krashen. So, turn on that, listen to yourself. However, you might tell me, ma'am, every time I do that, I stutter, right? Or you experience mental block. That's normal. But as you get used to it naturally, okay, listen to yourself. Don't mind the people who will correct you, right? They're not perfect as well. It's easy to correct someone if you're simply listening to them, right? But if you're the one talking, it's so hard to correct yourself. So yeah, I hope you also give your feedback to yourself. Self-assessment is also part of feedback. If you started browsing or previewing modules from DepEd, right? 30 plus activities are there. Okay, that's even before pandemic. And the last part always is self-assessment. Like, how did you feel about your performance? Are you happy about the result or your answers or your scores? Sometimes it's in a form of smiley faces, right? Or rating, Likert scale style, strongly agree, strongly disagree, and so on. And there are other ways where you can do self-assessments. Thank you. So these are the okay, 100 ways to praise. So you may use this when you would like to, praise your student. Like, congratulations, we have your A to Y, right? However, it's also important, just like what I said, I reiterate, this is a tip, for the student to realize that you appreciate and listen to his insight or answer. Aside from these 100 ways to praise, what you may add, like, you know what, yeah, I also do immediate feedback because I feel like there is a need for it to be said only a conversation instead of recitation, if you know what I mean. Like, I would like you to feel that we are just talking, right? No pressure, no tension, okay? And just share. Okay, so good thinking. Oh, what else? Terrific, you are daring. Oh, what a good listener, right? On the left side, right, of the 100 ways to praise, you will see there. I think it's for mostly for the young learners, of course. P.S. Remember, a hug is worth 1,000 words. So if you can remember, there is an American school or setting again. I've watched it in a video. There's a teacher, okay, who posts the tapping their emojis, right, on the board or on the wall upon entering the room, and they need to tap that, and then they will do that to the teacher, like hugging or high five, right, or up here and so on. So yeah, so you may start downloading that and practicing other using other phrases, right? Other than very good, good, and so on. So we have law of primacy. Law of primacy states that you remember, right, the very first thing you encountered or you're exposed to instead of the most recent. So for example, you're watching a film, right? You remember the first part of the film instead of the ending, right? So that's how students learn in that case. And law of recency talks about the most recent. So for example, you're that kind of person or learner who learns or remembers the ending rather than what happened at the beginning. So that's the opposite of primacy. Primacy first, recency, new or recent. These are clues. Okay. Law of expectations, just like what I said, there is a need for us to set what? Objectives. Set learning objectives. It's also mandatory for, I think, majority of private schools nowadays, and I hope also in public school, right, that we present expectations and objectives. That's why at the beginning you realize or you notice that I posted there our objectives. So learners' reaction to instruction is influenced by their content related perceptions. So if they know that they are going to achieve this thing, particular activity, or they will write an essay at the end, they'll do role play, that can also trigger their motivation, right, and their interest to the subject. So, okay. And next, so I would like you to take this test and you will also use this in the future. We'll talk about law of differences. You're familiar with Howard Gardner, right? I think someone mentioned about Howard Gardner, the 9 multiple intelligences, right? And definitely this assessment, this is from, you may screenshot it. Okay, the link is literacynet.org. So next meeting, you will echo your top 5 or at least top three, because this assessment will give you or will show you the top five multiple intelligences that you have. We are not only limited to only one, right? We have at least our top three or top five. Why? Because it depends on the situation. For example, we are in a pandemic and there's new skills that you have discovered, right, about yourself. So maybe before you are into, verbal linguistic, but you turn into being what, musically intelligent and the like. So you may screenshot this and sharing of your what multiple intelligences. So I think it's already time. So for your takeaway, you may just go to the website again and then I will be reading them, right? I will be reading them. So you may do it after we have our class picture. I don't want to eat your time because you also have your other classes. So let's have our class picture. Turn on your videos. Thank you. Okay, one, two, three, smile. Okay, next. One, two, three, smile. Okay, God bless you all. Have your happy lunch. Okay, don't forget this takeaway. What is your takeaway about the laws? You will see there other comments from other classes or sections. Right? Don't copy. Have your own takeaway. But you may edit theirs. You may, or I didn't. I think I didn't allow that. But you may comment on their takeaways. So see you.
Ma'am,
God bless you all. Stay safe.
ma'am, excuse me po.
Yes, Mark.
Ma'am, pasensya na po ma'am kung pinutol ko po kayo kasi po tawag dun, late po kasi ako pumasok. Puwede po bang mahingi po yung ano, yung module?
I uploaded it. Right? I posted it in the Google Classroom.
Okey po.
Ah, you didn't attend last week?
Umattend po ma'am, umattend po ma'am. I mean ito pong PowerPoint niyo meron po sa ano?
The content, all the contents are also found in the IM. However, primacy here. But don't worry, I will provide you this presentation if you like. Okay? So yeah. Thank you. God bless you all. Goodbye. Don't forget your takeaway, huh? Screenshot this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you po.